Hi, this is Meg with MEG Photography. I'm going to go through a quick how-to of how I edit the basic newborn pictures with my, basic run-through and basic settings. So right now I'm in Photoshop CS6. It looks pretty much the same as CS5 if you still have the older version. The background's just a lighter color, a lighter gray in the background, but most of the buttons and actions and everything like that are all about the same, so hopefully it's not too confusing if you're going back between the two. So here I have a photo selected to start with. When I'm doing a lot at once, it'll have the images all along the left-hand side here, and usually I just select all of them together because I do the same sorts of basic adjustments with all of them, so you can select them all and it'll make the same adjustments to every one of those photos. The first thing I do is I just bump up the clarity a tiny bit. I also like to bump up the vibrance just a little bit, just to kind of make the color pop a little bit more, especially since a lot of newborn pictures are with a lot of lighter pastel colors. If I need to adjust the exposure, obviously you can do that. If the photo's too bright or too dark, you can kind of play with that until it looks how you like it, but this exposure on here seems to look okay how it is. Sometimes the picture looks a little bit too cool if their skin tone looks bluish. In this case, she's actually pretty good how she is. Maybe just a little bit. You don't want to make them look yellow, especially since some newborns already are a little bit jaundiced. That'll make it even worse. So after that, I change the tone curve just a little bit, just to add a little bit more definition. I probably do it the least amount in newborns and little, and make the darks go down a little. The more dramatic effect you want, especially for black and whites, you can make a bigger S shape with the curves, but for newborns I don't do it too dramatically. Next I just bump up the sharpening just a little bit. The masking, which it probably won't do a lot in this photo, but just to kind of help smooth stuff up. If you want to see what exactly is being masked, you can hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, so I'm holding that down now, and that will show you what it is that's going to have the effect. So everywhere that you see black is where it will fix the noise a little bit on the photo. It's really useful for any photos that you have shot, and it's really grainy. It'll help smooth it out. Usually you don't want to bring it much above 20, or it starts to just kind of look kind of fakey. And same thing with the noise reduction, then that's what you bump up to whatever you want. So we can just reduce the noise a little bit. There's really not a lot in this photo either. Anyway, you could slide it way up there, and there you can see a difference a little bit differently. And you can also hold down the Alt key for the sharpening also if you wanted to see what it's doing. So for example, there it kind of shows the outline. If you bump it up a lot, you can see it define the edges just a little bit more on that, and same with the detail, just to kind of give you an idea of what it's doing in the picture. So other than that, that's pretty much all I do there. Just get it looking like a generally good picture. Then you can go ahead and click done, and it'll open up the image for you. No, it won't. I clicked the wrong button. I should have clicked to open the image. Oh man. Let's see if we can find that one we're on. I think we're at 115. Okay, let's open that back up. Okay, let's open image, not done. So it'll pop open here in just a minute. Now the actions I always have open when I edit a picture. If you don't have it on your screen already, you can just go to Window and select the actions, and that'll make the actions dialog box open up for you. There are a few actions that I have that aren't standard. One is this Magic Sharp by Kubota. It kind of helps sharpen it a little bit even more than you could do on your own, and makes it just kind of fine-tune it a little bit, that I really like. And then the other one is a portraiture action by Imagenomic. You can see here in the list, there's tons of different ones that they give you, but the one that I use the most is just for the skin tones only. I usually don't want to smooth everything else because that takes away the texture in any of the blankets or anything that you're taking a picture of, but for pictures of people and portraits, it just smooths out their skin tone. So you'll see that here in just a little bit. Okay, so once we have the picture up, It's a little bit more difficult when you have a blanket like this that is patterned because you can't just select anywhere to clone it. Obviously, we don't want to have a hand in our picture. So we'll need to clone it out of the picture. And since it's a printed blanket, you have to be kind of careful with how that's cloned. So usually it's easiest if you start on the easier side of the blanket, so on this side, the right side, and then sometimes you can just copy paste and slide it over like you'll see here in just a second. So to clone, the clone stamp tool is this little thing over here that looks a little bit like a stamp, clone stamp tool you see. To select the area that you want to clone, you just hold down the Alt key on your computer, and that puts it where you want to start it. So since I'm going to start here in this corner of the yellow and move up, so I need a corner of pink. So I'm going to clone it right there, again by holding down the Alt key and clicking on your mouse, and then just move it up and over. And it's going to delete a little bit of the rest. You can see where that cursor is. That's telling you where it's taking it from. But we're going to kind of come up and around. I don't know if I like that being there. We're going to change it. And you just keep brushing around until it's how you want it. Now when you get around objects, you want the pixelation to match a little bit, so I usually zoom in. Again, you hold down your Alt key, and on a Mac you just scroll up with your mouse. You can change the size of the brush easily by using the square select tools. On the left makes it smaller, and on the right makes it larger. And you just kind of go around real carefully, whatever object it is. Ideally, it would have been nice if they held the backdrop up just a little bit higher, and then it wouldn't have been covered, but you get what you get. And you just brush it in, and there it must be hitting something else on her. So once I do this part, we'll scroll out and see where we're at. So if you make it too wide, it'll kind of fade the edges of this flower and make it look more retouched. So that's why you want to zoom in and make sure that you're doing it the right way. And now you can see it doesn't quite match up with this. So let's kind of click around, finish it up just a little. Okay, and that's looking a little better. I'm gonna try to come over here and reselect a new area so that we can get this. And now I'm cheating just a little bit. Oh, we can always go back in later and fix it. But it seems to be doing okay. Okay, now we're getting close to that flower, so I better stop. Okay, so now we've got the right-hand side of the picture done, and now we need to do the left-hand side. So if this were a solid blanket, I could just Alt-click over here and then erase all over her hand, but it's too small of an area, and with the print, it'll get kind of messy. So we will hit the selection tool and just select the whole right-hand side here. I'm going to copy and paste it, and you see it pop up as another layer over on the layers, and then hold down the right-hand side and just whoop, flop it over. I'm going to make it a little bigger and cheat a little bit to help cover that up. Now obviously we're going to have to delete that whole side of her face and flower because we can't use that, but now that gives us a little bit more to work with. So just delete that all out. I went a little too far. If you need to, you can also bring down the opacity a little bit by clicking on this to help you see where that hand is. So I want to go to the edge of this blanket without revealing her hand, so that helps me see where I can erase safely. And sometimes you have to kind of go back and forth a little bit. Okay, so bring that back up. And then same thing on this side, just kind of fill in the spaces and fill in the gaps where they need it. So I'll just take the same square that's right next to it. And we'll delete the rest of this finger off. I need to zoom in a little more. See if I can get it. And then there. Okay, so now the background's all done, and that part's finished. If you want, you can blur the background a little more. I'm not going to really go into that. It's pretty much good how it is. So the next thing to work on is the baby itself. This baby has pretty good skin tone. Really the only thing that needs changed the most is her hands. See how her hands are kind of a little more pinky. Sometimes they turn a little purpley. So I go to this select tool instead, where you're able to specify the area a little bit better. This is the lasso tool that I'm using. Sometimes a magnetic lasso tool works, but I usually get frustrated with it. I have the feather set to 40%, usually about 40 pixels, sorry. 40 to 50 is usually about good. And then you just go through and select the area that you want fixed. The feather just makes it so that it's not such a crisp edge when you do it. And then down here, I don't even know what this thing is called. Oh, creating an adjustment layer. So I click on that and go to selective color. So then that brings up, it makes a new layer with the selective color, and it brings up what the color select you can do. So in this case, there's too much magenta in the skin tone. So you just slide it down, and if you watch it, see how it goes up and down, it kind of takes that out. And when I did that, it also made it a little bit bluish, almost bruised like. So you just kind of play around with them until it looks about right. You don't want to make it too odd, or then it just makes their skin tone look different and look weird in for other reasons. So get that till it's about how you want it. The black I usually don't mess with. Sometimes if you do too much color, it takes away the edges, especially in their feet. So sometimes you mess around with that a little bit, but not a lot. And I had only selected this hand, so if you can see on the selective color layer, whatever is white, that's what it's going to apply to. So anything black obviously hasn't changed the color. So to make the other hand have the same effect, you just go to the brush tool, make sure that you are on a white color, and color in the parts that you need fixed. I'm going to go upper arm just a little bit more. And I have it on 29% opacity. If you put it on 100%, it's going to do the full effect of that selective color. So if there's another part of the skin that's not as colored, obviously you don't want as much white. So that's why that's set down, so you can click until it's right. So also kind of here at the bottom of her chin, it's a little bit pinky, so you can do around there. Her ears kind of look okay, but yeah, so that's that. And that, depending on the newborn, it kind of varies. Sometimes other things I might do, sometimes their forearm, this one's not too bad, but I'll go ahead and do it, is highlighted a lot more. It's really bright since it was the closest to the light source. So you can also select it, go down to that same adjustment layer and click brightness contrast, and bring down the brightness just a little bit to match the rest of the skin tone. And again, go over with the white and do it on the other side, just to kind of even it out a little bit so they don't have really brightly colored arms. So that's that. Sometimes I'll also come down and toy with the contrast. I just created a new layer. So when you don't select anything, it'll apply it to the whole picture. So here you can see it's all white because I didn't select anything specifically, so it'll make it for the whole picture. So you can mess with the brightness and contrast if you want, but really I think we're about good where we were, so we don't really need to. I'm going to go ahead and just delete that layer by hitting the delete key. All right, so then the last few things I do were evening out the skin tones and sharpening it up a little bit. So in that image Nomic, I have the default skin tones only selected. I just hit the play button. Oh, it's not available on my CS6, so it's not going to do it. I'll have to go over to CS5. I just recently switched. But basically, this is the basic things to get it done. Portraiture, if you have it, you can run that, and it's kind of smooths out the veins. I'll open that up in a different box. And the sharpen sharpens it up a little bit too. But there you have it. Basic newborn photo, all edited. She's beautiful. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.